We already know what the Democrats have been behind in 2020. Minneapolis was sort of ground zero for the defund the police movement. I mean, even Kamala Harris was apparently contributing to these radical leftist organizations that were bailing out violent demonstrators.
Defund the police. That was their demand.
It's a radical vision that does not square with most people in the United States, even the citizens of Minneapolis. Now, last night, Tucker Carlson made a terrific point about Minneapolis. These were the lunatics on the city council who want to abolish the police department. Well, evidently, that's not working out so good for the people of Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Defund the police. That was their demand. They said so. They didn't hide it. So in many places, the authorities did just that. And you know what happened next. In Minneapolis, which was the first city in America to embrace this lunacy, more than 100 cops are now leaving the force. Crime has become so bad in Minneapolis that the very politicians who once demanded that we defund the police are now begging for more police. That's happening tonight. City officials are now considering bringing in officers from other jurisdictions to restore order and keep citizens from being killed. Violent crime there is up 22% over last year. How'd that happen? You know how it happened, and voters do too. Thankfully, this has been a disaster for the Democratic Party. Not profound enough, but still, no one's for it. Who is for defunding the police?
Well, you'd be surprised how many people are for defunding the police. I've got to believe Black Lives Matter is. Black Lives Matter, a letter was sent to Biden and Harris after their presumptive win. Black Lives Matter co-founder, somebody named Patrice Cullors, said the support of the group's movement is going to cost them. This is according to Town Hall. The BLM Global Network Foundation leader first started by congratulating the two and then requested a meeting to, quote, discuss the expectations that we have for your administration and the commitments that must be made to Black people. She said the intolerable conditions faced by Black people in America will not end overnight. Without the resounding support of Black people, we would be saddled with a very different electoral outcome, she wrote on behalf of the BLM Global Network. In short, Black people won this election. Alongside Black-led organizations, Black Lives Matter invested heavily in the election. Vote and organize became our motto. And she also ended her letter with a kind of a thinly veiled attack on Joe Biden and Kamala Harris's criminal justice records. Remember, Biden supported the 1995 crime bill, and Harris was a prosecutor. And she wrote, the best way to ensure that you remedy past missteps and work towards a more just future for Black people is to take your direction from Black grassroots organizers that have been engaged in this work for decades with a legacy that spans back to the first arrival of enslaved Africans. We would like to be actively engaged in your transition team's planning and policy work. Well, I'll bet they will be. I'll bet you Biden and Harris will say absolutely. Defund the police, as Clyburn from South Carolina will remind you, was a disaster for Democrats in this election. And you shouldn't forget that. When I read about Minneapolis officials, this is from the Minneapolis Star-Tribune, the left-wing publication in Minneapolis. Here's the headline. Minneapolis officials are considering bringing in officers from other jurisdictions to help the city's police department as they face a wave of violent crime and an officer shortage. Interestingly, there's nothing in the article about the Minneapolis City Council voting, as I recall, unanimously to abolish the police in Minneapolis. Now the mayor and the city council and the Hennepin County Sheriff's Office and all these folks, they're all panicked because crime is skyrocketing in Minneapolis. So make that front and center in Georgia. We got to know what Warnock believes about defunding the police, or Ossoff. And they're going to be very, very strategic, believe me, in their campaigning. They know what they're going to be expected to produce in terms of their track record.